The termination email arrived at 9:47 a.m. on a Tuesday, right in the middle of my morning stand-up meeting. I watched my access badges turn red one by one on my laptop screen, Slack, GitHub, company email. Like watching my professional identity get erased in real time. Budget cuts, the email said. Position eliminated. 5 years at Technova Solutions, and I was reduced to corporate buzzwords. I'm Priya Sharma, and at 31, I'd just lost the job I'd sacrificed everything for. The job my family never understood but tolerated because it paid well. The job that made me marriageable despite my insistence on wearing hoodies instead of saris to family gatherings. I sat in my San Francisco studio apartment, staring at the locked laptop that IT would collect tomorrow, and made the mistake of calling home. "Hello, Beta." My mother's voice was warm until I told her the news. The silence stretched so long I checked if the call had dropped. "I lost my job, Ma." "Oh." That single syllable carried 20 years of disappointment. "Well, maybe this is God's way of telling you something." "Telling me what?" "That it's time to come home. Sharma Auntie's son just returned from Seattle. He's looking for a wife." "Ma, I need to find another job, not a husband." She sighed dramatically. "Priya, you're 31. How long will you chase this computer nonsense? Your cousin Anjali just had her second baby." I hung up before she could launch into Anjali's perfect life. My phone immediately buzzed with my father's number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Your mother tells me you've been fired." His voice was matter of fact, like he'd been expecting this call for years. "Let go. Not fired. There's a difference." "Is there?" "You have no job. That's what matters." He paused. "Come home. I'll talk to Meta Uncle about a position at his accounting firm. Stable work. Respectable. I'm a software engineer, Dad. Not an accountant. Maybe now you'll find a husband instead," he said, the words landing like a slap. "This tech obsession has made you unmarriageable. No man wants a wife who speaks in code and stays up all night staring at screens. I'm not looking for a man who..." 31, Priya. 31. Your eggs are drying up while you play with computers." I hung up on him too. My phone exploded with family WhatsApp messages within minutes. News traveled fast in the Sharma family ecosystem. My aunt in Delhi, my uncle in Mumbai, cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. Everyone had an opinion about my failure. "Finally she'll settle down," read one message I glimpsed before muting the group. I spent the next week in a haze of job applications and rejection emails. The tech market was brutal. Hundreds of applicants for every position. My 5 years at Technova, all those late nights and weekend deployments, reduced to keywords that didn't match their filters. Then I found it. Hidden in my personal GitHub was a project I'd started 2 years ago during a particularly boring period at work. A simple app idea born from my grandmother's frustration with technology. She'd wanted to video call me, but couldn't navigate the complicated interfaces of existing apps. So I'd built something just for her. One button, large text, no confusion. I'd called it Tap Talk. Looking at the code now, unemployed and desperate, I saw potential I'd ignored while chasing corporate promotions. What if there were millions of grandmothers like mine? Seniors who wanted to connect with family, but felt left behind by technology designed for digital natives? I had severance money. Not much, but enough for a few months if I was careful. Instead of spending it on interview suits and networking events, I made a different choice. I decided to build. For the next 3 months, I became a ghost. I declined family calls, ignored the matchmaking attempts, and poured everything into Tap Talk. I lived on instant ramen and determination, coding 18-hour days in my tiny apartment. The app was simple by design. One-touch video calling. Voice-activated commands. Text that automatically resized based on user behavior. Every feature built with my grandmother in mind, and tested by her, though she didn't know she was my beta user. "This is wonderful," she exclaimed during one of our calls. "Even I can use it." That validation was worth more than any performance review I'd ever received. I launched Tap Talk on the App Store with zero marketing budget on a Thursday night. My family didn't know. My former colleagues didn't know. It was just me, my laptop, and a prayer to whatever deity watches over desperate entrepreneurs. The first download was my grandmother. The second was her friend from the temple. By morning, I had 50 downloads. By the end of the week, 500. Then something magical happened. A tech blogger's grandmother discovered the app and wrote about it. "Finally, an app that respects seniors instead of patronizing them," the review said. The downloads exploded. 1,000, 10,000, 100,000. My phone rang constantly, not with family drama but with interview requests. TechCrunch. Wired. Senior living communities wanting bulk licenses. Venture capitalists suddenly interested in the gray tech market. I ignored them all, focused on improving the app. Adding features users requested. Fixing bugs. Building something that mattered. 6 months after launch, I got an email that made me shake. Dear Ms. Sharma, I'm writing from Apple's App Store editorial team. We'd love to feature Tap Talk as our app of the day. Feature day arrived on a Tuesday. I watched the downloads spike in real time, 10,000 an hour, then 50,000, then numbers that didn't seem real. My server costs skyrocketed. My bank account, fed by the premium subscription option I'd added, grew numbers I'd never imagined. A week later, another email, this time from Apple's business development team. We'd like to discuss an acquisition. The meeting was surreal. Me in my only blazer, sitting across from executives who'd probably never been fired, never been told they were wasting their lives, never been measured by their marital status instead of their code. They showed me charts. TapTalk had become the fastest-growing app in the senior technology sector. 10 million downloads, 2 million active users, a 4.9-star rating with reviews that made me cry. My mother finally feels included in our family video calls. I can see my grandchildren every day now. Technology that remembers not everyone is 25. The acquisition offer was $2.8 million. I signed the papers in the same coffee shop where I'd written my first line of code for TapTalk, using their Wi-Fi because I'd canceled my home internet to save money. The check cleared on a Friday. I sat in my apartment, staring at numbers that didn't compute. More money than my father had made in his entire career. More than any suitable boy from a good family could offer. I finally turned my phone back on. 847 unread messages. 73 missed calls. The family WhatsApp had exploded with news of my success. Apparently, my cousin in Bangalore had seen the TechCrunch article. Priya made an app. It's #1. Apple bought it. How much money? I scrolled through months of messages I'd ignored. The dismissive comments when I'd lost my job. The matchmaking attempts. The jokes about my computer phase. The suggestions that I was selfish for not giving them grandchildren. My phone rang. Dad. Beta, his voice was different. Smaller. We saw the news. Which news? I asked though I knew. Your app. The Apple thing. Is it true? Yes. Silence. Then, how much? Does it matter? I interrupted. When I needed support, you told me to find a husband. When I was building something meaningful, you were sending me marriage profiles. We were worried. You were embarrassed. Your daughter, the unemployed spinster. What would people say? That's not. Dad, I need to go. I have a meeting with the Apple transition team. Priya, wait. The family wants to celebrate. Your mother is planning a party. No. No. No party. No sudden pride. No using my success to score points with the relatives. You don't get to celebrate something you tried to prevent. I hung up and immediately called my grandmother. Nanny, I have something to tell you. What is it, Beta? Remember the app one made for you? Other people liked it too. She laughed, that warm sound that had kept me going through the hardest nights. Of course they did. You made it with love. Love always finds its way. The next few weeks were a blur of contracts, transitions, and decisions. Apple wanted me to join their accessibility team, leading a new division focused on senior-friendly technology. The salary was more than I'd ever dreamed of. My family, meanwhile, underwent a remarkable transformation. Suddenly, I wasn't the embarrassing unmarried daughter. I was the successful entrepreneur. The genius. The pride of the Sharma family. My mother called daily with wedding proposals. Now that you're successful, we can find you an even better match. As if my worth had increased with my bank balance. As if I was finally marriageable because Apple validated me. The relatives who'd mocked my computer nonsense now wanted app advice for their own ideas. The uncles who'd pitted my parents for having an unmarried daughter suddenly remembered how they'd always believed in her. I flew home for Diwali, my first visit since the firing. The same studio apartment now felt different. Not because it had changed, but because I had. The walls that had witnessed my breakdown now held the echoes of my breakthrough. My parents had organized a party despite my protests. The house was full of relatives, neighbors, and every eligible bachelor in a 50-mile radius. There she is. My father boomed, pulling me into the living room. Our successful daughter. The same room where he'd told me I was wasting my life. The same relatives who'd whispered about my marriage prospects. The same aunties who'd clucked their tongues at my career choices. Tell us about the app. Sharma auntie gushed. We always knew you were special. Did you? I asked quietly. Because I remember you telling Ma that she should stop wasting money on my education. The room went silent. And Uncle, I turned to my father's brother. Didn't you say coding was mannish behavior that would ruin my chances of marriage? That was, he stammered. And Dad, I looked at my father directly. Maybe now you'll find a husband instead. Those were your exact words when I needed support the most. My mother tried to intervene. Priya, that's all in the past. Is it? Because you're literally trying to marry me off right now. There are 3 suitable boys in this room you've invited without telling me. I pulled out my phone and showed them my bank balance. Not the full amount, just enough to make my point. This is what I built while you were planning my wedding. This is what I created while you were calling me a failure. This is what my computer nonsense achieved. We're proud of you, my father said quietly. No, I corrected. You're proud of my success. There's a difference. When I was unemployed, scared, and needed my family, you abandoned me. You don't get to claim my victory after betting against me. I turned to leave, then stopped. You know what the irony is? I built TapTalk thinking about family connections, about bringing people together across distances and differences. But my own family couldn't bridge the distance between their expectations and my dreams. Outside, my grandmother was sitting in the garden, away from the chaos. Too much noise. I asked, sitting beside her. Too much pretense, she replied. They don't understand, do they? Understand what? That you didn't build that app for money or fame. You built it for love. For me. That's why it succeeded. I hugged her, this woman who'd been my only real beta tester and cheerleader. Nanny, would you be disappointed if I didn't get married? She laughed. Beta, you're married already. To your passion. To your purpose. That's a marriage worth having. I stayed for 2 more days, long enough to set up TapTalk for every elderly relative who genuinely wanted to connect with distant family. Their joy at being able to easily video call their grandchildren was worth more than any acquisition check. My parents tried to reconcile in their own way. My mother cooked all my favorite dishes. My father showed me newspaper clippings he'd saved about my success. But the damage was done. They loved their idea of me, not who I actually was. Will you visit again? My mother asked as I packed. When you can introduce me as Priya, not as your unmarried daughter or your successful daughter. Just Priya. That's all you've ever been to us, she said. No, Ma. That's all I ever wanted to be. I flew back to San Francisco, to my new position at Apple, to the life I'd built from the ashes of failure. My family still calls, still sends marriage proposals, still doesn't quite understand why I chose code over convention. But I've learned something valuable. Family isn't just about blood. It's about who stands by you when you're building something from nothing, who believes in your dreams when they're just GitHub repositories, who sees your worth beyond your relationship status or bank balance. My real family? It's my grandmother, who inspired an app that changed millions of lives. It's the senior users who send me messages about connecting with loved ones. It's the team at Apple who saw potential where others saw spinster. TapTalk now has 50 million users. We've launched in 30 countries, with interfaces in 15 languages. We've won accessibility awards and been featured in case studies about inclusive design. But my favorite metric? The number of grandparents who can now easily video call their grandchildren. 30 million and counting. My father was wrong. I did find a partner, technology. I did have children, lines of code that grew into something beautiful. I did build a family, a community of users who needed what I created. And unlike the suitable boys from good families, this relationship lets me be exactly who I am. Priya Sharma, 32, unmarried, unbothered, and unstoppable. The next time someone tells you to give up your dreams for convention, remember, the world needs what you're building more than it needs another arranged marriage. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have code to write. My grandmother just requested a feature for sharing recipes during video calls, and I never disappoint my most important user. $2.8 million didn't shut them up permanently. Success never does with families like mine. But it bought me the freedom to stop caring what they think. And that's priceless.